Can't think of a better leader to watch for the Democrats than Congressperson Ritchie Torres, Democrat, New York. And Congressperson Torres joins me on a special edition of Legal AF to talk about the National Guard, the attempted takeover of state sovereignty, the violation of states' rights by Donald Trump in California, but what it means for the rest of America, especially the blue states, and what congressional leadership, of which he is a part, what are they doing about it, right? I wanted him to brief our audience about what the Dems are doing in the face of this assault on sovereignty. And here it is. Representative Richie Torres, welcome back to Legal AF.
It's an honor to be here.
Why don't we kick it off then with what was your reaction and those in Congress to Donald Trump's federalization of the California National Guard and his violation of sovereignty based on a manufactured rebellion that doesn't exist? What was your takeaway from all that?
Donald Trump has taken his assault on American democracy to a new extreme, and I find it cruelly ironic that he's unwilling to stand up to foreign adversaries abroad, but he's willing to weaponize the United States military against American citizens here at home. And as you know, the Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. The one exception to Posse Comitatus is the Insurrection Act, which enables the president to use the military to suppress an invasion or insurrection or rebellion. There is no insurrection or invasion or rebellion in the United States. Like, the purpose of the demonstrations in LA and elsewhere is not to overthrow the government. It is to protest mass deportations and riots. And if some of those demonstrations become violent, that's an issue to be resolved by local law enforcement. The president had no right to commandeer the National Guard and then turn it into his personal police force. And we have a president who thinks that the presidency is his private property, that the military is his personal police force, and he can use that police force to crush any protest or demonstration that he deems a rebellion. And that, to me, is an unprecedented assault on our democracy. And keep in mind, the last time a president federalized the National Guard without the consent of a governor was 1965.
Right.
After the bloody Sunday attack on civil rights leaders at the hands of state police. And at the time, Lyndon Johnson had no choice but to federalize the National Guard because the segregationist governor, George Wallace, was part of the problem. He was enabling violence against civil rights leaders. So Lyndon Johnson deployed the National Guard to defend civil rights. Donald Trump is using the National Guard to violate them. It's the exact opposite of what we've seen in American history.
Such a good use of a historical analogy to put it in context. As I've referred to him, he's the anti a lot of things. He's the anti-Abraham Lincoln. You know, he's using the bully pulpit of the presidency to tear asunder our union, to attack our federalism, to go after the 22 or 23 blue states while he has the opportunity and he has the numbers. And that's all we're watching. So what's happening there is, of course, Donald Trump played right into the hands of Judge Breyer. Judge Breyer is not divested of jurisdiction. We like to do a little teachable moments here on Legal AF. He has jurisdiction over the case. He's moving forward with a hearing on Friday on the preliminary injunction. And he anticipated that Donald Trump would cross the line and use the Marines to detain people. We already saw the zip-tied veteran who was detained at the Wilshire Federal Building. And that helps the argument of California that he's not only violated the 10th Amendment, Donald Trump, by violating the sovereignty of California to the power reserved for the people and for the states, and violated the Militia Act of 1903, because, as you said, Representative Torres, there is no rebellion. He can execute the laws, but he's also violated the Posse Comitatus Act in the way he's used the Marines. So now the record is more complete. While we have a hearing, a ridiculous hearing, a premature hearing, up at the Ninth Circuit, wasting time and money about a temporary restraining order that's soon to be converted into a preliminary injunction. And the only issue up at the hearing is about whether the TRO order is going to be stayed. We've moved past the TRO order. We're now up to preliminary injunction on Friday.
Can I add
What
something
is?
to that?
Yes, please, of course.
Because I mean, Donald Trump is not only violating the Posse Comitatus Act, he's violating the 10th Amendment. He's
Yeah,
violating federalism. You know, people should keep in mind that the states are not creatures of the federal government. The states have their own rights and their own powers under the Constitution, and Donald Trump has no right to infringe upon those rights and those powers. So he is violating one of the foundational principles of America, which is federalism, which is states' rights. And historically, Republicans have thought of themselves as the party of state rights. But the only organizing principle in the world of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement is power. It's all about power.
yeah. Naked power, assertion, aggrandizement. Absolutely. Yeah, well, we're going to have to see when this finally gets teed up in a week or two to the United States Supreme Court. We're going to see this struggle for the MAGA right on the court, because on one hand, they are states' rights people. On the other hand, they are unitary president, all powerful, all knowing president model. And when those two things collide, the question is, who are they going to side with? But it matters not just to California. Substitute any other state, any other blue state. New York could be next, right? Your home state. He has no respect for Hochul, the governor. He has no respect for the state of New York or the people of New York. That's the issue. The most powerful people in any democracy, constitutional republic like ours, are the citizens, are the people. And he has no respect for that.
I mean, that is such a key point, because Donald Trump aspires not only to be an authoritarian, but to be a totalitarian.
Yeah.
Like, what he seeks is control not only over the economy, but over civil society. Right? That's why he's targeting law firms. That's why he's targeting universities. He wants every civic, not only federal agencies, but every civic institution to be in his orbit of totalitarian control.
Right. And that's right. And Representative Torres, that's right out of Project 2025. All you got to do is read it. And they talk about this hijacking, my term, of, as you said, civil society, the institutions and the foundations, from education to religion to, everything from outlawing pornography to instituting basically a theocracy, is all right there in Project 2025. And it dovetails with his narcissism and his fascist tendencies. And that's what we're watching on full display. I just saw an interview with I read an interview with Ken Griffin of Citadel, who is usually a moderate Republican, but I almost fell out of my chair when I read, he went to Harvard and everything. And he wrote something like, he runs a major hedge fund, private equity fund here in America. And he said, I think most of what Donald Trump is doing is extraordinary. He's finally tightened up the border with Mexico. Like, just complete abject failure to recognize his assault on civil liberties and on the Constitution. In fact, he just blithely said, and I think it's overblown, all the comments made about the Constitution. He owns apparently one of the existing copies of the Constitution. So the reporter asked him, what do you think? Is it under attack? No, I think that's overblown. Look how the Republicans and the moderates are enabling Donald Trump to do what he's doing.
Constitutional rights, you never know what you had until you lose them. And we have more to fear from underestimating the threats that Donald Trump poses to our democracy than to overestimating them. And there's a double standard here. Like, if President Biden or any Democratic president were deploying the National Guard to suppress right-wing protests, there would be an uproar among conservatives.
How about if he did it in Texas?
Yeah. So there's a double standard here. It's like the same standard should apply to everyone. Like, everyone has the right to protest in America. And if there's a public safety issue, that's the purview of local law enforcement. No president has the right to turn the military into his personal police force and to weaponize the military against his political adversaries. Right? First, he used the Justice Department and he's been using federal agencies, but now he's using the military to exact political revenge, which is something we've never seen before in the modern history of the United States.
Yeah, and we went through, Judge Breyer, who's the brother of Stephen Breyer, Supreme Court Justice, senior emeritus judge, 83 years old. He wrote in his temporary restraining order, the most chilling aspect of what Donald Trump is trying to do is trying to convert what is effectively, by and large, peaceful First Amendment protest, as uncomfortable as it may be, because it's uncomfortable, because of a few bad actors, into a feat of alchemy, into rebellion in order to crush it and suppress it. And it's exactly, he said exactly what you just outlined. Few bad apples kind of within the fringes of the peaceful First Amendment appropriate protest that leave First Amendment protection, doesn't convert something into a rebellion. But in Donald Trump, he uses the word rebellion, he uses the word insurrection, the way you and I order our lunch.
Yeah, but under Donald Trump, we live in a post-factual political universe where the truth and words no longer have meaning. Like the words insurrection and rebellion no longer have meaning. Language is whatever Donald Trump decides it is. The truth is whatever Donald Trump decides it is. Louis XIV famously said, "I'm the state." Donald Trump thinks he's the state.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks he's not only above the law, he thinks he is the law.
Oh, he said it.
The law is whatever he says it is.
He's literally said that. He and Pam Bondi said they will be declaring what the law is. That it's not just for the judges to do it. The executive branch will do it, and he's the chief law enforcement officer. I mean, you're exactly right. He said it out loud. And the tone from the top, look at the tone from the top, right on cue. Ron DeSantis in Florida. Take your car and run into First Amendment protesters. That's okay in Florida. And then right on cue in San Francisco, it happened. And in New Orleans, this is a country where, unfortunately, mass casualty events happen with people running into other human beings all the time. Talk about the complete criminality and depravity of a leader of the Republican Party calling on that on the day that we had assassinations and attempted assassinations of elected officials in Minnesota.
Now, we made the legal arguments, but Donald Trump will claim that he had to mobilize the military in order to enforce law and order. What he did produced the exact opposite. Yeah. It led to more lawlessness and disorder. So he escalated the situation rather than stabilized it.
But they want it, right? You saw, I don't know if you saw Newt Gingrich said the quiet part out loud. We want the split screen to be the Democrats are for lawlessness and migrants, and the Republicans are for law and order. We love this. He literally said that out loud 2 days after on June 8th or 9th.
And you just get the sense like he's just spoiling for a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Like he wants to fan the flames. He wants to stoke the fires. He wants to divide the country to the point of violence. I mean, we have a dangerous demagogue in the White House, and that danger should not be taken lightly.
Absolutely. I've said it in frequent hot takes of mine. In order for a Donald Trump to exist and exert power, he has to create a seething cauldron of hatred, pitting Americans against each other and at each other's throats. That's why he dovetails, whether he is colluding with or just dovetails with the Russian, North Korean, Chinese, and Iranian trolls on social media. It's the same. They want to weaken America by pitting each other at each other's throats. And they do that through their AI and social media postings and lies. Donald Trump does it because he thinks that's the way he needs to base his power model.
What breaks my heart is that our system is failing. Like American democracy is failing. It's not unfolding as the founders envisioned. Right? The founders distributed powers among three branches of government on the assumption that those branches would compete for power and jealously guard their prerogatives and powers, as the founders put it. Instead, Congress is not competing for anything. It's simply capitulating to Donald Trump. Like the authoritarian abuses of Donald Trump are as much a product of congressional capitulation as it is of Donald Trump himself. The congressional Republicans are enabling him because the Republican Party is no longer a normal political party. It's become a cult of personality around Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump is to the Republican Party what Jesus Christ is to Christianity. He's become the Lord and Savior of a religious movement.
Yeah, and he uses that terminology, and so do his followers. So that leads us, Representative Torres, to that other question I asked at the top, which is, let's give some either hope or, we don't like to blow smoke or sunshine here, but talk about what, from the moderates and the independents and the liberals and the Democrats overall, what are the leaders in Congress, at least in the House that you know of, because you're one of them. What are you guys doing now, both in real time and as we lead into the midterms and beyond? Give our audience some hope and confidence about the ability of the Democrats to lead once they're given that opportunity.
Look, the Democratic Party has never been more unified against Donald Trump and his frontal assault on our democracy. We're resisting him through every conceivable means, through litigation in the courtroom, through mobilization on the streets, through legislation in the halls of Congress. We are well confident that we're going to win back the House in 2026 and finally have a House of Representatives that's willing to investigate the president and hold him accountable and expose his abuses of power. And we've seen just an extraordinary groundswell of mass mobilization throughout the country. The No Kings rally was probably the largest demonstration in American history. So the resistance is live and well. The Democratic Party is driving much of it. And I'm hopeful that the future does not belong to Donald Trump and his authoritarianism. It belongs to the people. It belongs to our democracy.
Yeah, so well put. And I'm sure that will give our audience confidence as they work on trying to work around voter suppression laws, make sure mail-in voting and other voting methods are secure in time for the midterm elections. Welcome back. You can catch the entire interview that I did of Representative Torres, who's become quite a regular here on Legal AF, because he sees it the way I see it. This is an audience who's engaged. This is an audience that wants to be here and learn more about the intersection of law and politics and demystify it, especially from the political side. And I want to hear, and our audience wants to hear from somebody like Representative Ritchie Torres, who knows the secret sauce, who knows the inside baseball, who knows what's going on in the leadership of the Democrats. And that should give us comfort that he is part of that leadership. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.